PR Connections Radio presents
And welcome to Vegas Hockey Hub here in the sports entertainment capital of the world, Las Vegas, Nevada, on PRConnectionsRadio.com, the voice of new media. I'm your host, Ian Rachiele, and it has been a fantastic Stanley Cup final as your Vegas Golden Knights are taking on the Florida Panthers, and it has been an incredible series. You have had Game 1 and Game 2 at T-Mobile Arena. Now, the guys are obviously heading out to South Beach. They're going to be going to Sunrise, going to be in Florida for Game 3 and Game 4. But there is a certain aspect of your Vegas Golden Knights that I feel like hasn't given enough credit. There is one aspect of your Vegas Golden Knights I feel like doesn't get enough respect, and that is the defense. And more importantly, how incredible the Vegas Golden Knights defense has been, not only in the Stanley Cup Finals, but in the postseason. Now, obviously, a lot of that has to go with how Bruce Cassidy runs this team. Bruce Cassidy is well known for trusting his defense to win games. When it was in Boston and now in Vegas, Bruce Cassidy is really good at getting the most out of his defensemen, out of getting the best of the best when it comes to his guys on defense. So for your Vegas Golden Knights, they've had a 8-man rotation that they have been using for majority of the year. And they've used 8 guys on defense this postseason, and you have obviously seen the benefits and the rewards of those 8 guys being used. Now, the main piece on defense is their alternate captain and the guy they spent a lot of money to get back in 2020, and that was Alex Pietrangelo. Alex Pietrangelo was a Stanley Cup champion in St. Louis. He was a beloved guy in St. Louis. He gets signed to a 7-year deal here in Vegas, and he has performed exceptionally well for your Vegas Golden Knights. A lot of people forget that his first season, he did not do what a lot of people expected him to do. Not only did he miss certain portions of that shortened 2020 season, but he had only 23 points in 41 games. But where I think Golden Knights fans started to see what Alex Pietrangelo was made of was in the 2021 playoffs, where they had 4 goals, 12 points, and a +8 in 19 games. He followed it up with a 2021 campaign where he had 44 points, 13 of them being goals, in 80 games played. So he made up for it in year 2. And then this year, he has been arguably one of the best defensemen on the Vegas Golden Knights. Not only did he have a +13 in the regular season, he has had a +8 in the postseason for your Vegas Golden Knights. Now, his regular season stats were 11 goals, 54 points in 73 games. He was pretty much averaging a half a point per game. You also have to give him a lot of credit for how he was blocking shots. The Vegas Golden Knights are very well known for being a team that blocks a lot of shots on defense. Alex Pietrangelo is a good part of that. He is one of the best defensemen in the NHL, and Vegas getting him was a great situation. So Alex Pietrangelo, he has definitely been a very valuable asset to the Vegas Golden Knights. And you can tell when they're on the ice that they feed off the energy of guys like Alex Pietrangelo, a veteran, someone who's been there and done that. I mean, Alex Pietrangelo has been in over 120 playoff games, and this is his second appearance in the Stanley Cup Final. He won back in 2019. So for Alex Pietrangelo, this is a second time around. He knows how to be here. He knows what to do, and he's a valuable asset to your Vegas Golden Knights. The second line's mate on opposite of Alex Pietrangelo is Alec Martinez. Alex Martinez, the longtime veteran of the Vegas Golden Knights, he is going to be a free agent at the end of 2024, but we're not going to worry about that right now. What we're going to worry about is Alec Martinez. Statistically, he has not been great, for Vegas. Okay, if you just look at what his stats are, his goals, his assists, and everything like that, Alec Martinez does not look valuable from a naked eye point of view. But when you study his analytics and you study the advanced analytics, Alec Martinez is one of the most valuable defensemen in the NHL. He is by far one of the best members you can have. Now, let me explain why. Alec Martinez only had 14 points in the regular season, has had only 6 points in the postseason. So 20 points for a defenseman, that doesn't sound like much. And for a guy who had over 96 games played in this season, 20 points does not sound like much. But when you look at his plus minus, that is alarming. He had a plus 30 in the regular season, and he had a plus 12 so far in the Stanley Cup postseason. So for a guy like Alec Martinez at age 35 to have a plus 42 for your Vegas Golden Knights, that is extremely valuable. He also does not get many penalty minutes. Despite the Vegas Golden Knights getting into fights and altercations in every single game in this postseason, he has had only 2 penalty minutes in this entire playoff. So Alec Martinez is extremely valuable. I also mentioned with Alex Pietrangelo that he blocks shots. Well, there's nobody in the league who blocks more shots than Alec Martinez does. I mean, this guy is blocking shots left, right, and center. He does it on every single day. It doesn't matter what the situation is. He's always blocking shots, and he's always doing what's best for the team. So Alec Martinez, he has been here. He has done it. And just like I mentioned with Alex Pietrangelo and how he won a Stanley Cup and he's been in over 120 playoff games, well, his line mate, Alec Martinez, has had over 120 playoff games and and now has just one, but 2 Stanley Cup titles with the LA Kings. In fact, he's very memorable for having that game winner for the Los Angeles Kings over the New York Rangers. So for Alec Martinez and Alex Pietrangelo, those are 2 valuable assets that the Vegas Golden Knights have. Those are 2 of the best defensemen you could have, and they're playing for your Vegas Golden Knights. So as we are discussing the defense here on the Vegas Golden Knights, on Vegas Hockey Hub, here on the sports entertainment capital of the world, Las Vegas, Nevada, I'm your host, Ian Rachiele. The next defenseman that I have to mention is a rising star, is a guy who has been with Vegas since day one, and is someone who has definitely earned his tenure here in Vegas. Shea Theodore went from being a former first round pick, being a top prospect in Anaheim, to now being an established star in Vegas. I mean, Shea Theodore went from a guy who could barely get on the ice with the Anaheim Ducks to now playing every single game in the NHL, game in and game out. I mean, this is Shea Theodore, a guy who barely got any puck time, now has 84 playoff games for your Vegas Golden Knights. Shea Theodore, a lot of people blame him for his defensive mistakes, and I get it. You know, he does make the occasional defensive mistake. I'm not going to say he doesn't. But what Shea Theodore makes up with is the amount of points he puts up. I mean, this is a Shea Theodore who, in the last 4 seasons, has had 40 or more points every single time. He had 46 points in 2019-2020, 42 points in 2020-2021, 52 points in 2021-2022, and had 41 points in this season recently. I also have to give a lot of credit to Shea Theodore. He has had a positive plus minus every single year since 2019-2020, and he has a career plus 64 in terms of plus minus. But how has Shea Theodore done in terms of the postseason when it comes to the Vegas Golden Knights? Now, year one, this was his first time being with the Vegas Golden Knights in the postseason, and he had 8 points in 14 games. He did incredible. Year 2, he had 20 games played, 10 points, and 3 of them being goals. So for a guy like Shea Theodore, he averaged half a point per game with the Vegas Golden Knights. Fast forward to 2019-2020, he had 19 points and a +7 in 20 games. So he averaged a point per game for the Vegas Golden Knights during the 2020 NHL playoffs when they went and lost in the Western Conference Finals to the Dallas Stars. And in 2021, when they lost to Montreal in the conference finals, he had 10 points in 19 games and once again a +7. So Shea Theodore is consistently getting a half a point per game in the postseason, and he has had a +7 in 2020, a +7 in 2021, and as of right now, a +7 in the 2023 Stanley Cup playoffs. So Shea Theodore is consistent, he's reliable, and he's durable for your Vegas Golden Knights. Somebody else who is very reliable is Brayden McNabb, who actually is my favorite player on the Vegas Golden Knights. Brayden McNabb is all about the team. What's best for the team. And when it comes to Brayden McNabb, he is very good at staying in front of the goaltender. He is pretty consistent when it comes to taking the pressure off of the goalie. In fact, that's his number one job, is to take pressure off of Aiden Hill and to make it easier for the guy in net. I mean, if you've been watching the Stanley Cup Finals, the first 2 games, Brayden McNabb is a under the radar type of guy. He's not going to get that much media attention. He's somebody that you're not going to see most things going on. And when it comes to Brayden McNabb, I've always said that consistency, it's not flashy, it's not sexy at all, but it gets the job done. And that is what somebody like a Brayden McNabb is. Brayden McNabb is a reliable, consistent player who can do what he has to do. So I will say for Brayden McNabb, so far in this postseason, he has had a +6 in 18 games for the Vegas Golden Knights. And this is somebody that I think the Vegas Golden Knights are happy that he is playing for them because Aiden Hill has had a lot of pressure put on him. The Vegas Golden Knights, there's a lot of pressure when it comes to what Aiden Hill can do. And having a veteran in Brayden McNabb allows them to take pressure off of Aiden Hill and let him concentrate on the game. So I will give a lot of respect to Brayden McNabb, and I hope that the Vegas Golden Knights do well in the rest of the series. Now, Zach Whitecloud. Zach Whitecloud, the 26-year-old, one of the youngest guys on the Vegas Golden Knights roster, and he has been a valuable asset in this series, and it's mainly been because of how much he defends his teammates. This is a guy in Zach Whitecloud who's not afraid to drop the gloves. He's not afraid to defend his teammates, and he does it night in and night out. I mean, a lot of people forget that that's unlike Brayden McNabb and unlike Shea Theodore, Zach Whitecloud has been a day one member of the Vegas Golden Knights in terms of his career. He didn't come from somebody else. He wasn't a misfit. He has been a Vegas Golden Knight throughout his entire tenure of his career. And Zach Whitecloud, very similar to Brayden McNabb, is becoming a very consistent and reliable member of your Vegas Golden Knights. I mean, statistically, this year he only had 5 goals and 12 points in 59 games. But what a lot of people are going to forget about when it comes to Brayden McNabb is the fact that he had a +10 this year, he had a +21 last year, and he had a +9 the year before that. I mean, Zach Whitecloud, only 26 years old, and has a +46 in his career. So Zach Whitecloud, he is becoming consistent. He has become a really good player for Vegas, and in fact, that's why they gave him that extension, and he'll be staying on the Golden Knights until 2028. So as we are talking about the Vegas Golden Knights here on Vegas Hockey Hub, I'm your host Ian Rachiele. Follow us on all social media platforms at Vegas Hockey Hub and follow me at Ian Rachiele 18. Now, the last two members of the fence that we have to talk about is Nick Hague and Ben Hutton. Nick Hague, he was drafted in the second round, 2017, by your Vegas Golden Knights. 24 years old. He is actually the youngest defenseman out of the core the Vegas Golden Knights have. Now, despite the fact that Nick Hague spent 3 whole years in the minors with your Vegas Golden Knights, he eventually earned his spot playing here in Vegas. I mean, year one was a little bit rough, only 1 goal in 38 games. He had a plus minus of 0, so there was a lot of stuff you could talk about. But year 2 and year 3, he has gotten better and better as time goes on. I mean, Nick Hague at this point, he has played over 200 games in the NHL and has 59 points and a plus 27 with Vegas. But one aspect of his game that no one wants to talk about is his physicality. This is a Nick Hague that already has 150 career penalty minutes, and in this postseason, he has had 35 penalty minutes for Vegas, and he has racked up a plus 10 in that process. So Nick Hague is doing exceptionally well, and I'm happy to say that Nick Hague, only 24 years old, he is going to be a good member of Vegas in the long-term future as they have signed him to a extension. He will be on the team until 2025. Now, lastly, Ben Hutton is an interesting story because Ben Hutton went from being a young, up-and-coming guy in Vancouver to when that fizzled out, he went to LA, he went to Anaheim, he went to Toronto. It looked like his career was starting to go downhill, and then he was claimed on waivers by Vegas. And ever since he's been claimed off of waivers by Vegas, he has been a very good member of Vegas. When there is an injury, Ben Hutton gets put in the lineup, he does exceptionally well. When there is somebody that is on a cold streak and they need to switch the lineups around, Ben Hutton becomes that guy. Ben Hutton has become kind of like a super substitute of sorts. He is someone that is a seventh man in terms of defense, and he is someone that you can rely on when it matters. And Ben Hutton has been in 2 postseason games in this postseason because when Brayden McNabb or Shea Theodore or Alex Pietrangelo, when something has happened in this postseason, Ben Hutton has stepped up and has been in that role. So Ben Hutton has done exceptionally well, and I'm happy to say that he has done what the Vegas Golden Knights are paying him to do, and that is be a solid defenseman for Vegas. Now, defense isn't just about defensemen. Defense is about the overall aspect of defense. And there are certain members on the offense that has done exceptionally well when it comes to defense. Now, somebody I want to point out is Mark Stone. Mark Stone has been notoriously known as a two-way forward. All right, he is one of the best two-way players in the NHL. That stands for offensive and defensive-minded player. If you've been watching the first 2 games of the Stanley Cup Finals, and I really suggest you do, Mark Stone has been everywhere. He has been a huge member of the Vegas Golden Knights roster. This is somebody that the energy of Mark Stone, his intensity for the Vegas Golden Knights, you can feel it in the locker room. When he is on the ice, you can tell he's giving his 1,000%. He is putting everything on the line for Vegas, and the whole team kind of rallies around that. So Mark Stone has done incredibly well. Jonathan Marchessault getting in front of the net, taking pressure off of Aiden Hill, coming after players who attack other players. He's done a good job. Nick Waugh, he's also been very good at making sure that the defense is taken care of. And William Carrier, it does not get enough credit for this, but William Carrier, with his defensive-minded mentality, he has kind of sacrificed some of his offense and has made his defense a much better. So William Carrier, Nick Waugh, Jonathan Marchessault, and Mark Stone, they have all done pretty well. And I'm going to say defensively, they have been a very fantastic situation for your Vegas Golden Knights. So we talked about the defensive pairing. We talked about the 7 defensemen that your Vegas Golden Knights are using throughout the year. But I also wanted to very quickly mention the forwards that are putting the job in, they're putting the work in to make the defense better. And I mentioned Mark Stone. I mentioned Jonathan Marchessault, who is definitely in contention to win MVP, to win the Conn Smythe Trophy. Nick Waugh and William Carrier on the bottom 6 have done their part defensively. And I once again have to give a lot of credit to Bruce Cassidy for his way of building this team. I mean, Bruce Cassidy, his defensive minded presence, he is someone that really took this team that was carried over from Pete DeBoer and has really changed up their style of play. Now, one last part that I'm going to mention is Aiden Hill, because defense does include goaltending as well. Aiden Hill has proven himself in this series. Aiden Hill went from being a guy who was a backup goaltender, somebody who a lot of people thought was an afterthought in Phoenix and in San Jose. He comes to Vegas, and it's the next man up mentality. Logan Thompson gets injured, Aiden Hill comes in. Laurent Brisebois, he gets injured, Aiden Hill comes in. Think of it like a super substitute kind of situation. You know, your main guy goes down, and your substitution comes in and he does one heck of a job in that scenario. I mean, a lot of people forget that Aiden Hill at one point was the 4th string goalie for your Vegas Golden Knights. Towards the back end of the season, he was ranked 4th on the depth chart. So he goes from being there to now being in contention for the Conn Smythe Trophy for the Finals MVP. That is how valuable Aiden Hill has become. I'm going to admit that that save he did on Nick Cousins, that should be put in a museum. In fact, that should be hung up somewhere in Las Vegas. If there's any museums out here in Las Vegas, you should take a photo of that, make a rendering of it, and put it in a museum. That is how incredible that save was. He has made some very good saves in Game 2 as well. He's been on top of his head. He has made save after save after save, and he has only let up 4 goals in this Stanley Cup final. Keep in mind, Aiden Hill has never been in a Stanley Cup playoff before this year. This was his first ever appearance in the Stanley Cup playoffs. He has now played in 13 Stanley Cup playoff games, has a goals against average of 2.06 and a save percentage around 94% for your Vegas Golden Knights. So if someone wants to make an argument that Aiden Hill should be the Stanley Cup Finals MVP, go right ahead. I'm not going to stop you. As a matter of fact, I'll make that argument here on this show that Aiden Hill should be at least in the conversation of getting a vote for the Conn Smythe Trophy because of how incredible he has been for your Vegas Golden Knights. And do I think that Aiden Hill will get a contract extension? Well, we did a video on that very recently here on Vegas Hockey Hub, and I say 1,000% yes, they should. Aiden Hill and Brett Howden, who we also did a video on, those are 2 guys who should absolutely get a contract extension because of the way they've performed in the Stanley Cup final and the value they have brought to your Vegas Golden Knights. But you know what? That's the off season. We'll focus on that down the road. But right now, if you focus on the Stanley Cup Finals and you talk about what's going on now, I'm going to say that when it comes to this situation, I look at it and go, all right, your Vegas Golden Knights, you are in a positive situation. You're in a favorable scenario. And what I like about this scenario is the fact that your Vegas Golden Knights are in a all right, you go to South Beach, you're going to Florida, you're going to play at the BB&T Arena, BB&T Center, Florida Live Arena, whatever the heck you want to call it. But when it comes to the Vegas Golden Knights, their main scenario heading into game 3 is first off, they have to keep playing their game. All right, do not fall for the trap of trying to outperform Florida. Just keep doing what you're doing, attack on the offense, protect the defense, and make sure that you take as much pressure off of Aiden Hill as possible. Don't play Florida's game. Don't fall into that trap. That's what they're going to try to do. The second thing you're going to have to worry about if you're the Vegas Golden Knights going into game 3 is you have a 2-0 lead. All right, you had home field advantage. You won your 2 games at home. Now you have to go and try to win 2 games on the road in front of Florida, which is going to have a sold out crowd. There's going to be a very rocking stadium in Sunrise, and that team's going to try to benefit off of that. So for your Vegas Golden Knights, I say the 2 things you're going to have to worry about heading into game 3 is one, do not play Florida's game, continue to play yours. And second, you have to capitalize on their mistakes and you have to make sure that the hometown crowd does not get in your head. Okay? The hometown crowd here in Vegas, they boosted you up. They had the morale. You had that morale boost. Florida's going to try to get that same thing. Try not to let that overwhelm you guys. So, this was Vegas Hockey Hub here in the sports entertainment capital of the world, Las Vegas, Nevada, on prconnectionsradio.com, the voice of new media. I'm your host, Ian Rachiele. Follow me on social media at Ian Rachiele18 and follow the show at Vegas Hockey Hub. I also want to mention to everyone watching around the world, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and turn on notification bell so you not miss any episodes of PR Connections Radio. Speaking of which, there's a bunch of fantastic content on PR Connections Radio. They have Cozy Stone, you have Brian Gardner, you have Grandmother Ray. There is a lot of great content on here. Love of Business, Crypto and Cash, the Professionals Podcast. There's so many amazing people who are content creators on this platform. So definitely go check them out. And I will say to everyone watching around the world, go Knights, go. Continue loving hockey. Go watch junior hockey. And we're looking forward to game 3 of the Stanley Cup Finals.